Welcome to Ask the Experts. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBSMoneyWatch.com. I'm joined by my compadre,
executive editor Jack Otter.
And we've got two, not one, but two guests.
That's true.
One via Skype, one in the studio. It's very exciting. Let's start with our Skype guest, Ilyce Glink. Hi, Ilyce.
Hi, Jill.
Let me do your...
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
Did I just blow the ears off of you?
Yeah, exactly. Ilyce is the MoneyWatch blogger. She hosts a zillion different things. She's got amazing different websites, but really go to her blog here at MoneyWatch.com because she writes almost exclusively about the housing market, and she's fabulous, and that is just unbelievably cogent information. Also some good celebrity gossip, Ilyce. We always love that.
Oh, yes.
We like that. And we are also joined by Billy Wright, who is an officer at Americana Mortgage Group, which I realized, Billy, last time I think I said American.
You did. Oh. I let you go.
It's brutal. Anyway, Billy is a mortgage broker, and what's so cool about that is that between Ilyce and Billy, we're going to figure out how to solve the housing crisis today. Okay, are we ready to do that? We can. Yeah. Oh, not a problem. Exactly. So let's just start with this pretty crappy report we got. Hey, Roland, put this graph up that I have on the screen. And this is from S&P, the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index. That they have a couple of different indexes. They have the national index, a 10-city index, and a 20-city index. And there's this big, huge, deep dive down. And it's pretty scary, actually. Now, part of that, Ilyce, is that we had this unprecedented bubble and boom in house prices where house prices doubled nationally. How strange an occurrence is that? Is that a once in a lifetime? Has that ever happened? Have we ever had house prices double in such a short period of time?
I actually think that we did have housing prices double, maybe, I don't know about the same period of time, but we certainly saw in the 90s, as the stock market was going up at 15% a year, people were absolutely seeing a huge amount of increase in their home prices. Then things kind of fell off a little bit, and then we started up on this jag. But I think that the Case-Shiller Index would say that, no, this is sort of a unique occurrence, maybe back 400 years.
Oh, my God. So, I mean, this was a once in a generation for sure that we had for home prices doubling. Yep. And so we learn in this report that we are now resuming the downward slide because there was this period where the government intervened and said, hey, we'll pay you to buy a house. We can't sell them, but we'll pay you to buy a house. They had the home buyer tax credit, and you wrote extensively about that. And one of the things that had that happen is that it basically delayed the inevitable. Is that right?
I think it did worse than that. I mean, it did delay the inevitable, but I always wondered how they could even say that we'd had some upward price momentum when really when you see that, it's just about, if it's median, you're talking about homes selling for a little bit more than the median price than below. And so when you're looking at that median home price index, it's just it's almost meaningless in terms of what's really going on in your neighborhood. So I think we are in a big, deep slide. As I've said from the very beginning on Money Watch, I think it's all about the fact that people don't have jobs, they don't have jobs that pay enough to pay the mortgage, and they're really hurting.
Yeah, and we're going to take a lot of questions because we've got a number of user questions. But if you've got a question and you want to go onto the website, go to MoneyWatch.com, and then you can also go into the chat room. So I monitor. I actually have the chat room up, monitoring live. I swear. So Billy, in this period where we have prices going down and there seems to be I mean, like the majority, we're almost 32% off the peak. So if we were to go down another 5 or even 10%, are you hearing that people are, in other words, are buyers calling you and saying, forget about it, I'm not buying, I'm waiting? Are you getting that sense at all?
No, I'm getting a lot of buyers in the lower end markets that are jumping in because at that point, the house is priced at what it is. It's not going to go any lower than where it is right now. They're either doing a short sale or they're just walking away with basically no profits as a seller. So but in the higher end markets, yes, I do see people saying, you know what, I'm going to wait for the next dip and see what happens too. But a positive thing that's helping the market is the rates right now.
Yeah.
Rates are very low.
Right.
So some people are hedging their bets saying, you know what, maybe I can get it for $100,000 cheaper on the higher end, but I'm getting 4.25% on a 7-year ARM. I'm taking it. I'm going
Right.
with it.
Ilyce, are you hearing from people who are, I know you've done a tremendous amount of work on the foreclosure and home modification, and you really should read some of Ilyce's stuff in the comments from her loan modification hell series. Are you hearing on the other side that people are now getting interested in terms of an investment in real estate? Are they scared, or what's happening?
Well, you're certainly seeing 16 or 17% of all home sales are investment property right now. People are buying them not to live in, and that's a huge number. A more typical number would be 6% or even 4%. We're seeing 17%. On the other side, you're seeing 61% of all home sales are distressed property, foreclosures and short sales. And so I think what's happening out there is home buyers who can get qualified are taking advantage, as you said, of super low, almost record low interest rates, which, by the way, when they're this low, means the economy's in trouble. Like, there's no reason for a 30-year rate to be at 0.3%. It's only there because people think the economy is tanking, and so the bond market is pushing that down. But that said, hey, if you can qualify, good. Go out and buy something, because no matter what you buy, affordability is at the best place it's been in probably 50 years. And you have these ridiculously low interest rates. Next 30 years, you're in great shape.
Yeah, right. We can't speak for after that, right, Jack?
Right.
Well, you don't have to, because you will have paid it off.
That's right. So, Jack, what do you think? Do you think that this is, we're seeing a general slowdown where obviously housing is kind of the tip of the iceberg. We got some weak data about jobs. We're worried about manufacturing. We know that housing's in a double dip. Are we about to see a double dip in the economy?
Well, the official definition of a double dip would be, forgive this geeky definition, but 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And no, I don't think we'll actually go below zero. But I think clearly there's a slowdown. It's very unusual because this is the 3rd year of the presidential cycle where generally the government just throws money at everything to make everything look rosy. And we've already spent all that powder. Obviously, the reaction now in Washington is against throwing money at everything. So it's kind of a funny time. I have to think that things will slow. And then you just hope that there's enough momentum, partly from stimulus, partly from recovery, to at least keep us above zero. And if you force me to bet, yeah, I would bet that we'll keep going. We'll grow slowly, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of money on it.
And Billy, I'm sorry. Go on, Ilyce.
I was just going to say, Jill, there's this whole official definition, and Jack is exactly right, of what a recession looks like. But I would argue that we've been in a continuous recession for a huge percentage of the American public. I just did a couple of hours filling in on WGN radio in Chicago, where person after person called in to say, my kids just graduated from college. They went to elite schools. None of them can find a job. 50 kids, none of them can find a job. Or parents whose kids lost jobs. They've moved home and they can't find jobs either, or they're getting jobs at $10 an hour. It's hardly the picture of the American dream. And I would argue that with a fifth of all males who are of job hunting age in this country, 1/5, 20% are unemployed, and a true unemployment rate of 17-18%, we never really recovered. Wall Street recovered. D.C. looks pretty good. But when it comes to American jobs on Main Street, and I've argued this in my MoneyWatch blog ad nauseum, I don't see that there really has been a recovery. And what you're seeing now in home prices is the result of that, of people not having enough money to make their mortgage payments.
One of the factors here is that the bubble that we experienced inflated absolutely everything. I mean, the bubbles you don't hear about, like demand. There was fake demand for everything from cars to houses to magazines, newspapers, and bubblegum. And now we're finally repairing the balance sheets, but we're realizing that we actually didn't have enough money to buy all that stuff. So we got to go back to, I don't know, what is it, 05, 06, whatever we were spending back then is probably where we ought to be now, but there's a lot more stuff in the pipeline.
Yes, and we should talk about that because part of the price pressure, as Ilyce said, is that we have all these foreclosed properties, right? And so evidently there's something like 6.3 million properties in the foreclosure or delinquent pipeline. Is that right, Ilyce?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. So, when you go and you look at where we think prices are going, how could they possibly rise with all that pressure? Like, I didn't have to actually sit through Econ 101.
Ilyce could correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also a moratorium on foreclosures right now. So you're not even getting the short sales going on at the present moment to help stimulate economies. You know, neighborhoods are not, people are sitting in their houses for 2-3 years before
But is that a good thing? I mean, I don't know. I saw this quoted. I'm not even sure it's a real statistic that banks are sitting on something like 870,000 REO properties that they haven't yet sold because they don't want to push them out to the market. Ilyce, does that sound like, why would they not push them out into the market? Because do they feel like they're better off waiting a year or two, or they just don't want to deal with it, or is it have anything to do with the mortgage modification nuttiness, or what?
Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. First of all, I think that the moratorium on foreclosures has passed, but the problem is that there are a whole bunch of lawsuits that are making their way through where judgments have been issued that the foreclosure papers were never done right. The properties weren't transferred into the trust, the so-called toxic trusts, which were then sold off, that MERS, which is the organization that supposedly does all this online, didn't really do it right. And there are homeowners who are literally having their foreclosures undone, which is terrifying the banks. So I think there's a bank-induced slowdown, but the official government moratoriums and foreclosures are not happening right now. On the other side of it, I think banks have to sell this REO property in 5 years. The clock is ticking for them. So if they're holding out, they can't hold out for that long. On the other side, they got 6 more million properties that possibly could come through this pipeline pushing down property. So if you think about it, if with a short sale, they might get 70, 80% of the cost or of the listing price. In a foreclosure, they might get 30 to 50%. You think, why don't they just approve the short sales and be done with it? But I can't explain why nothing has been done this way. I mean, 5 years ago, in 2005, 6 years ago, I was at a Mortgage Bankers Association press conference, and I said to them, you guys are not processing short sales very quickly. What's going on there? And they made some sort of blah, 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 blah. But you know what? It's still true today. It's taking 6 months, 8 months, and the buyers either die or walk away.
Oof. It's so frustrating because it really would help the process. Everyone would win. The bank would get more money. The homeowner would relieve themselves. Those people who have enough money could actually get a good deal.
Yeah. And now, Ilyce, just one quick question, and then we have to go to all of our user questions. And if you've got a question, shoot us an email, questions@moneywatch.com, or hop into our chat room. So go to moneywatch.com and click on the top little banner, and you'll go right into the chat room. Ilyce, is there something to be said for all these seconds, the guys who are in second position, who are stopping the process? In other words, the guy who has the first mortgage, maybe it's JP Morgan Chase, or maybe it's whatever, Countrywide, Bank of America, but that the second is the problem in a lot of these cases, or has that period passed?
No, I think the seconds are definitely a problem because they already know that when 25% of Americans are underwater, and if property prices go down another 10%, 35% of Americans will be underwater. So there's no money to pay the first, let alone the second. But so they are throwing a little wrench in, but the government is kind of compensated for that. There is a program, whether it's ever worked out or not. God knows the track record's awful. But there is a program to pay seconds, people, the lenders in second position, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to actually give their blessings and say goodbye. And I think some have taken the government up on the money, pocketed the cash, wrote the rest off. That's a different problem. And some of the big banks actually are holding seconds, and the second lender of the big bank, let's say Bank of America, their second loan division says no, and the first loan division says yes. And it's like, guys, can you talk to each other?
Right.
Can we solve
They don't
this
talk at
problem,
all.
please?
No. That's crazy. All right, let's get to some questions here. First, we have Meryl, who says that she and her husband own a rental condo property just out of Boston in Brighton, in a good location, with a 20-year mortgage at a rate of 5%, a mortgage balance of $200,000. Our annual rental income of $24,000 is about the same as our annual operating expenses. So that's pretty good. They're breaking even. They're lucky, for God's sakes.
That's great.
We don't anticipate any major out-of-pocket costs. We lived in this unit for 2 years prior to renting it out the last 6 years, and have always been lucky to have tenants occupying it. We recently refinanced from our original mortgage that had 22 years remaining to the current 20. Considering this information and the tax benefit, is it beneficial to invest in the stock market or retain this property? Just wondering when the real return is earned on a rental property. Jack, you want to take a whack at whether we're going to...
It's kind of a fascinating question. They're not getting a whole heck of... Their return is all of zero right now, unless they're finding a way to get some write-offs that are helping on their taxes. So, on the one hand, I would say if you got a long-term horizon, I guess it's a 20-year time horizon, I'd probably rather be in the stock market for that. Take $200,000, put it in the stock market right now. That said, the stock market has doubled since 2009. Housing has kept on falling.
Yeah, I like the other trade.
So in that sense, I like that trade, and also it also depends on what kind of investment they want to make, because they're getting income from this. Presumably, they can start raising rents in a couple years. That'll be nice. Keep up with inflation. Get that little
and you know
income.
what else I'm thinking is that they end up moving back in, hopefully eventually, and then they don't have to worry about that whole recapture nonsense and sell it and live there. But
in terms of total capital gains 20 years from now, I think a couple diversified broad index funds and stocks they'll probably do better.
I'm thinking that it depends. I mean, first of all, I don't know what the outstanding mortgage balance is, right? So, I mean, what the property's worth, I meant to say.
I think they think it's about the same as the mortgage.
Really? Why would we say that? I don't think so. They wouldn't have been able to refinance.
First of all, refinancing on an investment property at a 5% rate is a great
That's a
deal
great
in
rate.
itself.
I'm thinking that actually they're going to make more money, because I don't think they would have been able to invest in the stock market or retain this rental property. My guess is this. Let's make it up for a second. We don't know what it's worth. Let's say that the property's worth, they've got a mortgage balance of 200. The property's worth 300.
They had to have at least 33 or 35%.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Because you don't refinance a rental property with that 35%.
Right. So let's say it's worth $300,000 and you got $100,000 of equity in that place. I think leave that alone. As long as they don't worry about being a landlord, I think that they're at the bottom here. They might go down a little bit. They have a chance to kind of do some sort of arbitrage tax-wise later and move back into it. And I don't think I'm not so sure I'd be like blowing out of this property. I feel like they've taken so much of the pain, and now they've locked in this low rate for rental property. And aren't rents going up now nationally, Ilyce? Isn't that kind of the trend?
Oh, that's what they say, but I'm not sure on the ground that's really true. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's all suspect, I think. But, the truth is, if you get good tenants and you see what's going on in the neighborhood, Boston itself has done pretty well. It's not in as bad a shape as some of the other communities. So, yes, rents probably are going up. I think that they would have a very hard time taking more money out of this property right now. I don't think they'd be able to. So it's really a question of, do you just sustain the path, keep paying down the loan? I would have rather, if they'd asked us beforehand, I would have said go for the 15-year loan, because they might have gotten even below a 5%, and then 15 years they're done paying it off. It's a huge chunk they're paying off every year. And remember, they do get quite a few benefits, not just the depreciation, but they're also getting some write-offs on the interest for that and the maintenance care. I think they're in good shape.
Yeah, you see, we're going to try to, I don't know, what can we say? You're more optimistic about the stock market.
Well, over a 20-year horizon. I have no idea what it's going to be in 3 years.
Yeah.
But over a 20-year horizon, I think it looks pretty good. And also, there is the problem that, in fact, I have a former landlord who regrets raising the rates as much as she did on us. We're not there anymore in Amagansett, and there's still a for rent sign in front of her house. She has missed 2 years of income.
That's
from
crazy.
us. And these guys, if they find themselves in that situation, that could be ugly.
Right.
That could get ugly fast.
That's true.
Because their payments are pretty high.
That is true. Hey, in the chat room, Real Estate Cafe says if 6.3 million homes in foreclosure pipeline, can buyers buy before homes are listed in MLS to expedite sales and reduce losses? I mean, can you go direct to these people? I guess you could, but you don't know the house is for sale then. There's no way to do that.
You can find REO on the bank site.
Yeah, you can find that.
You're right. You have to go to the bank to actually look it up. I mean, what are you seeing, Bill?
I'm seeing most of it is it's going to the channels, the proper channels at that point. Most people are not buying direct from
banks.
No.
It's like a hassle also.
I'm not seeing a lot of activity in that front.
Where you are seeing that kind of activity, Jill, is investors will call up FHA or HUD. They'll say, I'm going to buy 1,000 units from you. These are the 1,000 that I want, and they make a deal. Or you see investors swoop in, and there's a 700 unit or 700 lot development that's half finished. They buy out the lots, and then they build it back up. That kind of stuff you are seeing, and there they do go directly to the banks. But one of the investors, the commercial real estate investors that I'm good friends with in Georgia, told me that the banks all think the property values are coming back like as if it were stocks. I don't know what they're smoking. Seriously. they think it's all coming back, so they don't want to make any deals. That's where they are.
Well, that's why they're holding on the short sales too, though.
Yeah.
They're very,
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, my friend just lost a deal off a short sale because they wanted some work needed to be done inside the house, and the bank came back and said, "Sure, we'll sell you the house, but we need you to do $10,000 worth of work in the house before he owns it."
Wow.
He walked
Who's
away.
going to do that? That's so
Nobody.
stupid. Okay, here's Jay, who's also from Boston in the great Republic of Cambridge near Harvard Square. We've got that's a little joke for
Yeah.
you New Englanders out there. We've got a 2-family condo and have one of the 2 units under agreement. The second unit has been listed for 60 plus days. We're contemplating a reduction in the asking price. Can you tell me if Cambridge has dropped in residential condo value similarly to Somerville by 3 to 5%? Does anyone know this? Did anyone look it up?
I can't tell you that, but Ilyce, I bet she's got an answer for her.
Oh my goodness, why is it always me? No, seriously, I think what you want to do here is you want to try and talk. I mean, if you lower the price in the condo, you really mess with the person who already bought from you.
That's what I'm
They're going to
thinking.
be so unhappy.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to, before they've even closed, find out that their property's worth 30 grand less. So what I would do is talk to local agents about what's really going on in Cambridge. I mean, Cambridge has been hot. You've got, Harvard. You've got a million universities. I've been spending a lot of time in Cambridge working on a tech project. I mean, it's bustling, and there's an awesome, delicious Indian restaurant right downtown. I love it. So I really would talk to local real estate agents about what it is about this property and what you can do to maybe market it more effectively.
Right.
Do you need a website? Do you need to go online? Do you need to buy some ads, targeted ads? What do you need to do to get this thing moving? And can you pay realtors an extra bonus for bringing you a qualified buyer? It's a lot cheaper than lowering the price.
Right. That's a great idea.
You also might ruin your sale that you have on the first unit because if you list the second at a lower price,
And they don't get their financing.
They're gonna, and they haven't done the appraisal already. They're definitely gonna use that next door
Comp.
and
bet.
there you go.
That's right. KP in New Haven, Connecticut says, I'm a recent graduate now pursuing my master's degree. I have about $17,000 to $20,000 in student loans in small amounts. My credit is fair to good. Will this hinder me from getting approved for a mortgage by raising a red flag, Billy? What do you think? Should they?
Yes.
Yes, it will be.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's just credit.
It's just credit. So as long as
He's
Okay.
reading the question. Don't do that. I read the question.
All right.
Listen
well,
to me.
When you consolidate into these consolidation companies, the credit bureaus and the banks actually look at this as if you can't manage what you have on debt now.
Wow. I didn't
so
know that.
it will be a red flag for her. So as long as her debt to income can cover and she has a down payment, she should be fine.
So don't consolidate.
I wouldn't.
Consolidation can be a
It can
red
be a red flag.
Okay.
Do
I
we
got it.
know if she consolidated through the government rather than a private company?
Well, that's it. If she consolidates, if there's school loans and she consolidates through their program, that might not be a red flag. But they have these consolidation companies
Right.
that say consolidate your debt
Right.
here, and those are guaranteed red flag.
Okay, very good. William wants to know cash in refinance versus a cash out. What is it, and why do people do this? You don't know what
the
just
sign of
happened.
the times.
Vicky just took the sheet of questions away from Billy,
Oh.
so she's now punished. Poor
I just
Billy.
got yelled at.
She just got yelled. She just yelled. You really whacked him. Damn. Okay, so Billy, a cash in refinance means what?
A cash in is when you don't have enough equity in the house to cover the closing costs. Cash out refinance is when you refinance the house and you either pull enough money out to cover the closing cost or extra. So a cash in means you're bringing money to the closing table.
In other words, it's 2004 versus 2011.
Yeah, exactly,
Correct.
exactly. And most people, according to maybe these new mortgage rules, Ilyce, is this true? Like the way that they're going to talk about how mortgage companies keeping a certain amount of loans on the books and how much they have to retain and having skin in the game. That one of the things is that if you want to do a cash out refinancing, you're going to have 30% loan to value, and that would be a very interesting thing. That would certainly prevent a lot of people from taking money out of their homes, considering that so many are underwater anyway, right?
Yeah, I would say that most people are not going to be able to get a home equity loan or line of credit anytime soon.
Right.
The numbers, because if you have, say, 23, 27%, the numbers are maybe a third of people underwater. Then you have a whole group of people, maybe another third, that are just even.
Right.
They're not underwater, but they don't have really any equity left. And then you have people who are, way in the money. They paid with cash. They paid off their mortgages, whatever. But their home is worth less than it was. And so when you look at how it's divided out, you realize just how fragile the housing economy really is and how people are so on the edge. And that when you see it, it's no wonder that our consumer confidence level is down, right? Imagine the gut punch, the sucker punch you just took by wiping out decades of home equity you thought you had.
Yeah. And for all those people, Jack, who said, I'll just rely on my house to do my kids' college, right? Or I'm going to rely on my house for my retirement planning. We're now
this
seeing
is
that.
the lack of demand that I'm talking about, because we thought all that money was there and it just ain't there. And we were buying stuff with this. I mean, it's become a cliche now, but the house is an ATM and we're pulling money out of this ATM, but that money did not exist. And it's not coming back for a really long time.
But those ATM fees are going up. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
If you have less than 25% equity, you know, you're going to go FHA for a cash out refinance, and the PMI on that alone is going to be $400 or $500 a month.
So that's the private mortgage insurance. There was a lot of letters in there. That was good. And you showed off beautifully.
I like
you
that.
are a smart dude. I
try.
love that. I love that. So private mortgage insurance, which is what you have to carry if you have less than 20% equity in your property, correct? Okay.
It does not protect you.
It does not protect you.
It is not for you.
Not for you,
It's
young
not for
ladies and
you.
young gentlemen. Here's a question. This is funny. This cannot be this person's name, but I'm just going to say M. I bought in 2002 before the big run-up. I have a 30-year mortgage, 5.75% fixed rate. It's now about 9 years old. Loan to value, 60 to 70% today. I'm 55, self-employed. My income has crashed and burned over the last 3 years, but my credit rating is still solid. At the going rates of about 4.5%, I might be able to save $400 to $500 per month and have a mortgage payment equivalent to rent. Because of my equity position, I'm not really a default risk. Because of my income, I don't qualify. Ironically, my default risk would be even lower if my payments were more affordable. I'd really just like to lower my interest rate, not get a new 30-year mortgage. So here are my three choices. Let's vote on what he or she should do. Sell now at the bottom of the market and become a renter. No. I don't like that. Continue owning for another 5 years until I'm an empty nester, paying the mortgage with earnings when available and savings when not. 3, try to refinance by committing mortgage fraud. I don't know if you get to do that. I don't think that's a wise.
That's the only option.
I know, right? That's exactly
I'm
right.
confused.
This guy says it's frustrating. I played by rules. I bought when the market was sane. I put a lot down. I got a fixed rate. I had savings, and it didn't really pay off.
Well, wait, Jill, but don't we have another option for him?
Yes.
Billy, jump in. If his loan is an FHA loan, he may be eligible for an FHA streamlined refinance where they don't pull a comp, they don't pull anything, they don't look at his income. All they do is simply leave the loan in place and for a couple $100 lower the interest rate. So he might be able, if he has an FHA loan. Billy, isn't that how that works?
Absolutely, but I don't think he has an FHA loan if he's got, what do you say, 70%? 30,
Yeah, 60 to
30%?
70% of loans. So he's got 30% equity,
30% equity.
into the property.
We don't know what he had to begin
True,
with.
that's true. But I'm thinking
Well, how long's he had it for?
since 2002.
So
He couldn't have had an FHA because
couldn't
he's
have.
got a 5.75% loan.
In 2002, he hasn't paid down. He hasn't
What
paid.
does that have to do with it? Jill, I don't
Because I think he
understand.
would have had a lower rate with an FHA loan in 2002.
No, wait, 2002, that's what interest rates were going for, 5.75%. I mean, it was kind of an amazing rate. Now it seems really high, but back then, that was like insane to be below 6%.
But wouldn't mortgage rates for FHA would have been even below that? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm trying to know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We don't know. I'm just saying, and most people don't realize this, that if you have an FHA loan, this is a possibility for you. And because they aren't looking at comps and they're not doing an appraisal on the property, you may be able to squeak by and just get this rate adjusted.
And if you never had an FHA loan, though, that is not available to you, right?
But you
Not
can
available.
call your lender. Call
Call
the lender
lender.
and just say, look, this is where I'm at. And chances are probably not going to do anything, but you might, there's that 1 in 100 person who gets a reduced rate for, of 50 basis points of what you owe or something.
Yeah, I would
And-
have him lobby a little bit. It's just, I think the smaller the bank, maybe the better chance if the
Absolutely.
bank held that mortgage.
I know Hudson City, I talked about them last time, but at any time during the loan, if you pay a fee, they'll reduce the loan to whatever current market rates are that they're offering.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, can I just make a comment about
great
the
little
mortgage,
option.
the mortgage fraud?
Yeah.
Don't commit mortgage fraud. That's
no.
very
No.
bad.
No.
That's a very bad thing to do. Here's one from Maria. We bought our house 4 years ago at its peak. Recently, we reduced to a single income. We cannot support the mortgage in half a year. We're in a 30-year fixed rate loan at 6.1. The mortgage we owe is similar as the property's current market value. We would like to either downsize or reduce the mortgage. In our situation, what's the best strategy? Selling the house may cost us a few more tens of thousands out of our savings. Refinancing, loan modification, short sale. Is there any way to do a refi without putting in more equity? There's no way to do that. If you
Cash in.
Yeah,
Cash in, refi. There's your cash in.
So you could do a refi, but you'd still have to spend the money.
You still have to spend the money, the shortfall of where they are, plus closing costs. Modification, I don't know.
Ilyce, what do you think about a modification? Is it gonna? Are they gonna? I mean, they're, I guess, lost in income, so they could conceivably qualify.
It's such a fake out thing. I hate to recommend loan modifications because only 1/10 of the people, 1/10 of anybody who applied for it ever got it. I mean, it was ridiculous. So you might get lucky. If they want to try, they should pick up the phone and call the Hope for Homeowners hotline, 888-995-HOPE. 888-995-HOPE. Those are HUD certified housing counselors. I've written about this extensively on my loan modification hell posts for MoneyWatch. They will put you through a backdoor channel in touch with your lender. So it'll be a triage. And then you'll find out very quickly because they have 30 days to approve you or not approve you for a permanent loan mod. Not that that 30 days is even being held to, but it's better than 3 years. And you might find out right away. But I think this is one of those people, and I would say that I've heard from tens of thousands of people who are in this situation. There are no good answers for you. And I say to them, come up with your plan B, because if you can't afford it, you don't qualify for a redo, you could try selling it. But if you can't sell, you're out of luck.
I'm thinking the same thing, like sell it and move on.
If you're going to go for the modification, I would do some yoga first before you start that process.
Yeah.
Especially with that, she said that the clock's kind of ticking on their affordability. They got 6 months. I would do it now. I mean, I'd be interested to know, at least thinks, do you go FSBO? I mean, they don't want to be paying that broker commission, so do you try to sell it yourself? Or
no, you can't do it. It's like
you'll never get it sold.
Never get it. You got to get the brokers involved, or else they're not. They're going to, like, the cabal of brokers will come back and haunt you.
Yeah,
they won't.
Well, the real issue is, are they underwater? Is it a short sale we're talking about?
Well, it sounds like it's not actually. They're maybe slightly underwater. She says it's about a break even.
The problem is it's a short sale, really, because after the expenses they're going to be under, they're going to have to use some of their money to make up the difference. And really, short sale is, they should try to advertise it right at what they owe. And so it's not a short sale, and they don't need bank approval, because that's the only way they're going to get it done in 6 months.
And listen to this question. This is kind of interesting. Jacqueline wants to know, we're trying to refinance our mortgage with Wells Fargo. We have excellent credit, but the value of our home has gone down considerably since we bought it over 2 years ago. They want us to put down another large amount to do an FHA, which will require us to pay private mortgage insurance. We currently have a 5-year ARM at 6.35%. Should we refinance, and which option do you recommend? Jack Otter almost jumped out of his seat on that.
I think you go to the mortgage, whoever sold them this mortgage, and you say, Billy is going to come over to your house and break your knees.
Nice.
If you don't explain what is up with a 5-year ARM at 6.35, that makes no sense to me at all.
So
unless they had
2
terrible
years
credit.
ago.
Well, terrible credit, or it makes no sense at all.
But they say they have great credit.
First of all, too, why would a first-time home buyer, if this is their first home, take a 5-year ARM?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So somebody really sold them.
And I think that if there's, depending on how many more years left on their ARM, if they have 4 more years or 3 more years, I would sit tight.
Yeah,
I don't think I would, because if they're gonna inquire, FHA is a great product, but it is expensive, and there's a lot of closing costs involved and whatnot. And let's see where the market goes in 4 years.
Yeah, I think it's like, if it were 2 years ago, you have a whole different, right? You know, you're in the beginning, but I tend to agree.
5-year ARMs right now are about 4.25.
Wow.
So is there any negotiation here?
No,
Okay.
probably not.
They got you.
They got it.
They got it.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Oh, we had this is from last time, the Quicken Loans question, right? It's a good question. Okay. Quicken Loans is fine, everybody. Don't worry about it. Okay. Ready for this? We're going to do one last one from Alan. We lost our home to a short sale in 2010. We used the last of our IRA money to buy an inexpensive place to live in. Do we have to treat the disbursement as taxable income, Jack Otter, or is there a way around it?
I wish there were. There might be a way we could talk about saving a little money on the penalty. He doesn't even mention the penalty. But, when you take money out of an IRA, you are taking taxable income.
Yeah.
That you have deferred the taxes on. Once you take that money out, you got to pay those taxes.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And I'm not sure I would have recommended that particular course of action, but it's done, and Uncle Sam wants to get paid.
Don't forget about the 1099 that's going to come your way for the short sale.
Yeah. And Billy, can you just talk a little bit about that people are entering into short sales, and
I don't think they understand. They're not told. They're saying that their judgment is going to be cleared that's fine. But the bank will issue them a 1099 at some point for the difference of what they've lost.
So meaning that if you owed your bank $100,000 and you do a short sale and the bank only gets paid $80,000, you should expect a little note from your 1099 that says, hey, that difference between what you owed us and what we actually got is income, correct?
I would
But
assume.
Jill,
Yes.
it is income, but through 2013, if it
Yes.
was your primary residence, the IRS is not going to tax you. So you do get the 1099, but it is not a taxable event, whereas normally it would have been. This is the one thing the government got right, and it goes through 2013, and arguably I could see it continuing if we have this slowdown in the economy. So I don't want people to panic.
Yeah.
But if it is a second home, vacation home, investment property, you will be on the hook for that 1099 as income. It'll probably push you up into a higher marginal bracket.
And Ilyce, if that 2013 rule, does that actually mean, is it the same for a foreclosed property as well?
Yes.
So everything is basically anything that, if you're going to do something before 2013.
Correct.
That could be an impetus to actually act in the next couple of years, right?
But it's a true primary, meaning
Yeah.
that they're going to do their research to make sure that it's a true primary.
Yeah, no messing around. No like,
A lot of people took loans, and claimed it as the primary or whatnot, and never.
Ilyce, you cover real estate and you write the home equity blog for MoneyWatch.com. Are you so dour? What is the upside? Give us a glimmer of hope before we close out. You're wearing your beautiful orange. I feel like you have something to tell us that is good. Please tell us something good.
Mortgage interest rates are at a historic low, and if you can buy something, go out and buy, because interest rates will never be this low again in your lifetime. Go out and enjoy.
And don't worry. Can I also add to that we have a nice little saying in the financial markets, which is don't try to catch a falling knife. There's no reason, even if prices go down 5 or 10% more in the next year or 2 years, so what? If you're staying in the house for 20 years, so what? You missed the absolute rock bottom. Who cares, right?
Well, also for two things. One, remember that rock bottom we're talking about is a national rock bottom, which is going to be different from location
Right.
to location. But more importantly, that chart that you showed at the beginning of the show, if you look at that 30 years from now, anybody who bought around this time period is going to look like a genius.
Yeah, I think that could be true. Ilyce, you're a buyer of real estate. You heart real estate, basically.
Yeah, I guess that should be my new slogan.
That'd be excellent. Put it on your car.
I have to tell you, I think that this is the best time in maybe 30, maybe 40, even 50 years to buy investment real estate.
Wow.
I think the prices have really come down. I think there are deals to be had everywhere. And I have a whole series on MoneyWatch called What Can You Buy For? And tomorrow I'm putting up What Can You Buy for Less Than $3,000? Because
Wow.
it's sort of silly. I mean, yes, the properties are pretty beat up, but for $3,000, I mean, I could pay that off of my credit card at the end of the month. I mean,
Right.
It's just, you have to start to understand that this is land you're buying, and depending on where you buy it, this could be a real opportunity to build tremendous property wealth 10, 20, 30 years down the line. So get a plan together, get your credit together, get your cash together, go find Billy, get a loan, get pre-qualified, and go out and find some real estate.
And Ilyce, you also wrote an interesting post about second homes, where there were markets where there were second homes where values have held in there. I mean, they've gone down, but you say that things are starting to turn in certain areas, not just Washington, D.C., which got all the notoriety this week. I was like, oh man, Washington, D.C. is like squawking around like, yeah, we're the bee's knees, we're the best market in the country. But you say there are pockets where things have done pretty well in the last year or two, right?
Yeah, you want to look for second home locations that are about an hour to 3 hours of driving distance, no more than 150 miles from a major metropolitan area. Has plenty of recreational opportunities like water, hiking, climbing, bird watching, whatever you like, whatever's big in that area, beach. You also want to look for college communities. If you're looking for second homes, a lot of people are retiring now. Lynn O'Shaughnessy has been writing about this, where you retire to college communities because it's thriving. Colleges are packed with people. They're always looking for housing. The housing markets have really stabilized in those areas, and they become great places to retire to. So there are some really good markets, pockets around the country where prices are down, but they're not falling off a cliff. It's not Las Vegas, baby.
Yeah, and even if you wanted to go buy in Las Vegas, you are certainly buying 60% off the peak. So that
70%.
70%. I mean,
Yeah.
for God's sakes, I mean,
Very
there's got to
exciting.
be some value there. Can I be a croupier and buy a house there? I would
I
look
don't
good
know.
in black.
Yeah, but in Vegas, I want to stay in a hotel. You know, the hotels cost about $50 a night if you go off on during the
true.
weekdays.
That's true. And Billy, for folks who are interested in either refinancing or buying, what are the three biggest tips that you can give before they call you at Americana Mortgage? What do people really need to understand about this process that they still don't get?
It is not going to take 30 days to close your loan. I tell everybody that. I don't care if you're putting down $2 million on a $4 million property or you're buying an FHA with 3.5% down. You are not closing in 30 days. And so just be prepared for that. So when you get that phone call that says, I'm closing on my, and I need to move out and my landlord has kicked me out and I need to move out in 3 weeks. Well, better call your mom and shack up. I don't know what to tell you because it's going to take time. I mean, the banks are doing their due diligence. We're looking at everything. Just on our end, they're coming back with conditions. Even if we send clean files in, the banks are coming back with 20, 30 questions just on top.
Right.
So
what's the time frame, 60 to 90?
No, I would say, if non-FHA, 45 days in that range. And then FHA, yeah, it's about 60 days.
Okay, so number one, realistic expectations. Number two, we need to then pull all their data so that you don't have to keep their
when you come in and talk with someone, bring everything with you. Bring your tax returns, bring your bank statements, bring everything. Let's not play a guessing game. Let's get it all up front. And if there is any problems, judgments, liens, anything of that nature, just tell us now up front so that way we don't get down to the wire, pull the title report, and see that you have XYZ on it, and that we have to take care of.
Got it.
Slows the process down.
And in terms of people are you interested or excited by people who say, oh, I want to buy cash only? Will you then pop in and say, hey, but rates are like that? We have Ilyce basically saying like rates are so low. Are you encouraging people to assume more debt, or are you kind of letting them do what they feel is comfortable for their own financial situation?
Whatever's comfortable. I mean, of course, I'd love you to take on some debt.
Yeah, right. Guys got to make a living, for God's sake.
But no, we're not even seeing a lot of cash buyers either. I mean, there are on the higher ends, but they actually come back 6 months later and pull something out for liquidity purposes.
Oh, that's interesting.
They want the house faster than 45 days. They buy cash for it, and then they come back. We have to wait 6 months before we can, if you buy a cash property, before we can go and refinance it.
Oh, that's good to know. Yep. And Billy, my favorite Hampton, because Billy lives in the Hamptons. My favorite Hampton story is the story of the former governor of New Jersey, John Corzine. His wife sold a house on the beach. On Sagaponack for $40-something million. And Ilyce, you'll like this, the new buyer knocked it down.
Of course they did.
I mean, well, why wouldn't you?
The bathrooms weren't
Why wouldn't
nice.
you?
I know. I didn't like the configuration
Yeah,
of
the
house.
kitchen wasn't,
It must be nice for those people. So if you've got a question about real estate that we didn't answer, shoot us an email, asktheexperts@moneywatch.com. Go to Ilyce's blog, the home equity blog on moneywatch.com. And if you're looking for Billy Wright, go to Americana Mortgage. Do you have a website there? Is it AmericanaMortgage.com?
AmericanaMortgageGroup.com. Yeah.
AmericanaMortgageGroup.com.
Correct.
And remember what Ilyce says. The sun will come out tomorrow. Is that right, Annie?
Oh, the sun will come out.
There you go.
Tomorrow.
There you go. That's perfect. All right. So don't be scared of real estate. Remember, what did Warren Buffett say, Jack, about when other people are scared, you should be bold?
Fear and greed. What is it? Buy fear, sell greed.
Yeah. So when everybody's talking about how horrible the housing market is, It could be time. And it's when everybody's really excited about it is when you need to be a little bit scared.
Exactly.
So good to have a little kind of balance.
Good to be a buyer
that.
right now. Not so good to be a seller.
Absolutely.
That's right. We're going to wrap up the show. So Ilyce Glink, thank you so much as always. Come to New York and visit us. We miss you.
I miss you too. We'll be there soon.
All right. She's live in Chicago. Oprah land. She's best friends with Oprah. Did you know that?
I did not know
yeah,
that.
she hang out all the time.
It's crazy. She is like
Wow.
the Harpo girl. Completely. Billy Wright, Americana Mortgage Group.
Great to be back. Thank you.
Great to have you. Mr. Otter.
Good to be here as always.
As always.
I'll be in Chicago next week, though, so.
Ah, that's right.
Sorry about
We
that,
don't
yeah.
know about what our schedule is, but we will keep you posted. I'm Jill Schlesinger, and thank you so much for, I'm Jack Otter.
I'm Jack Otter.
There we go. Thank you so much for watching Ask the Experts, and we will see you soon.